Hello, I'd like to welcome everyone to Phoenix Rising. Today we are having one of my very favorite guests and my very dear friend, Isabella Randazzo. We're going to be talking about basically connections, communication. Knowing us as you do by now, we will go off on different segues and tangents. So bear with us, because whatever comes out in the shows, it's really meant for someone to hear. You know, sometimes, more often than not, there is divine intervention in our lives, which is part of today's topic. It's part of your connection, my connection, Isabella's connection. Part of my belief system is the people that come into our lives are there for a purpose, even if they're there for 5 minutes. What are they there to learn from us? What are we there to learn from them? Is it boundaries? Is it a past life thing? Is it something very simple, or is it something part of a very complex fabric? So that will be part of today's discussion. And I'd also like to invite you all, if you have ideas for a show, or someone, maybe even yourself, that would like to be a guest on the show, you can call and leave a message at my office number, which is 631-591-2056. And on that note, I would like to introduce you to Isabella and welcome her. Hello, my dear friend. I'm so glad that you're here today.
Me too, Phoenix.
It's wonderful.
We made it through the traffic, didn't we?
Yes, we did.
Today.
We both ended up behind trucks.
Trucks behind.
That
That's
were
it.
not, and you know what? It's all exactly the way it was supposed to be.
Yes.
You know,
Nice meeting you again.
Same here. I hadn't seen you in a while.
Yeah.
You know, we were talking about the trucks. This just came to mind, and it's also connections and divine intervention. When my car would break down, not the one I have now, there was always a reason for it, even if it was something very minor. And the dealer didn't have a loaner car for me. It was because I was supposed to be off the road. And once I realized that that was what was happening, is I wasn't supposed to get a loaner car, be on the road, go here, go there. I was supposed to just stay put. And once we realize that we're always being guided and pushed to the left or to the right, and to pay attention to that, whether it's from someone in the physical, like you and I sitting here, and our interesting conversation before the cameras went on.
We won't mention that one, though.
No, that's going to be, you know, unless somebody out here blackmails us with that. But just, I find it so fascinating how this tapestry of our lives keeps weaving with these magnificent
you
colors.
come to crossroads, don't you?
Yes.
That's the whole thing. It's about, and we each come in with our own strand. I do believe that.
Yeah.
And it doesn't necessarily remain the same color as we go through the life. But even as far as intervention when it comes to the car, etc., I will give you an example. My husband and I were driving to Florida many years ago. And he's one of those that likes to drive the car. You know, women shouldn't be driving this, that, and the other. And then it gets to a point where he's really tired. And I said, I'll take over. And he decided that's okay. He gets in the other seat. And I'm driving, and I'm driving, and I'm driving. And then the next thing I know, I hear this banging on the side of the car, basically. And it woke me up. I had lulled I'd gone into it. That happened twice in my life. And that was spirit, because he woke up too, and I stopped. I think we were in the Carolinas somewhere. Absolutely nothing. There was nothing that I hate. There was nothing on the road. There was nothing, with the bang in the car. This was spirit waking me up. And of course, at that point in time, he took back over, and we kept ourselves awake. But no, I'd been going for quite some time. And then another time, I had gone to Pennsylvania for a spiritual retreat with the Indians, and I should do the Native American stuff. And we were up all night doing the prayers, etc. And it was Sunday, and I needed to get back. And they were saying, no, you should really go take a nap or do whatever. And I said, no, just let me get on the road, and I'll get back. And I was on the the New Jersey Turnpike.
Okay.
And I'm on of course, my little red sports car I had at that time, and I'm in the fast lane and, going to get home as fast as I could. And the next thing, I must have just been dozing off, and the wheel was wrenched from me. I mean, the wheel was wrenched. And I realized at that time I'd have been into the wall, that barrier, and twice. And I know it was spirit. I mean, there was no other way to say it. This was a straight road. And of course, at that time, from then on, obviously, I got off and I had myself a coffee and got myself ready and got back on and went home. But spirit does intervene when it is not your time and you're being stupid and not doing what you should have done, taken a nap or whatever. And that's why I feel fully protected. Not that I would do anything stupid just to see if they're protecting me, but I think we have to understand that we all have our own guides and our own group. And that's our connection, as we were talking today, to spirit. I mean, there's the direct line there.
Definitely.
And yes, it was a very interesting 2 experiences. I won't make it a third.
No. Well, many people know my experience with Scott the night that my mother passed in mid-October in 2006. And I was in Queens. She was in a coma, and she made it very, very clear she did not want me to stay when she was leaving her body fully. And my sister Vicky was there, she has since passed. And this, I knew then, and I know now even more so, this was between my mother and my sister.
Yes, they needed to be together.
They needed to be together, and my sister was saying, no, we're going to put her on life support. It was like,
oh, no,
we're not.
Oh, God, no.
This is not her wish. I had gotten the call earlier that day, Mom went into a coma. That was a Tuesday. She was fine on Sunday. So she just didn't really want to be here anymore.
No, it was her time.
It was. She was 94, and she was hot stuff. She went out on top. 94 and hot stuff. She went out on top, and my son David, who's also a Reiki master, he and I were doing Reiki with her, and we left. She made it very clear energetically out.
That was it. Yes.
And in my car, my little Volkswagen, on the way home, I was out, pretty far out east where, I live, and there are no lights on the expressway, and I guess it's 1 or 2 in the morning, and I hear what I believe was my darling Scott saying, move to the right. I was in the middle lane. And I look in the mirrors, and I said, nope.
Oh, really?
Yes, so smart to argue with someone like that. And I said, no, and I hear it again, move to the right. And I become very obnoxious. And I get stubborn, and I mean, I knew my mother was passing.
You knew it was a voice, didn't you?
Oh, definitely. It was as clear as you and I talking right now. And he said, move. Now he's getting annoyed. Move to the right. And I could feel myself digging my heels in. And I said, no. And I'm like showing him, look, I'm looking to the right. I'm looking to the left. I'm looking up into the mirrors. There's nothing there. And like with you, the steering wheel was basically taken from my hands.
Oh, definitely, yes.
Moved to the right, and as he moved me to the right, thank you very much, a piggyback tractor trailer went down the middle lane, no lights.
Oh, my
So
goodness.
how could I have seen it?
You wouldn't have, obviously.
So it was that day that I gave
You
God, my angels, I give you my word, I really will do my very best to pay attention.
Yes.
And he does mess, he messes with my hot water
with
in the shower.
Hot water in the mornings, yes.
So there was about a week or 2 that went by, and he didn't mess with the hot water. And I said, honey, thank you, you're not wasting water, that's really nice.
That was stupid.
And I'm getting out of the shower, and he turns on the water in the sink. It was like, really?
The things that they do are something else.
They're very playful. They are very playful.
Yeah, they are.
So also leading the conversation into the communications, the connections, being our authentic selves, and people coming into our lives. And we will not be mentioning any names or anything like that. Experiences in my many decades, as I look back, I see that I'm very blessed. I'm learning faster now,
yes.
And
everything speeds up.
It speeds up, and hopefully because I'm a bit wiser than when I was younger. So when I see someone that is, we talked about masks on the phone yesterday, is wearing a mask or not being their authentic self, I find it sooner than later.
Yes.
I always want to give someone the benefit of the doubt.
We all do that.
And you and I were chatting, and I was with another group of people also in the holistic wellness field on Friday evening, and a certain individual's name came up. And it wasn't by me. The person had been on my mind. And it was a person that presents in our field of healing to be very caring.
Yeah.
And it's coming across that so many people are finding this is not so. So you tell me what you think. I believe, or I feel, both, that when we are not our authentic self and we're doing it only for the money or only for notoriety or only to boost our egos, that wears very thin like a veneer. It starts to fall away.
Yeah.
It's not as strong as like when you first come onto the scene and you're all full of sparkle and whatever. That sparkle starts to fade and people start to see that wasn't your authentic self. And why wouldn't you want to be your authentic self?
Well, the thing is, the way I look at it, people present themselves to us to teach us lessons. So it's not, when they say nothing is either good or bad, yet thinking makes it so. And that's, I think that's Shakespeare, but it really makes sense to me, is how we approach it, how we see it. That person, we each come from the spark of God, no matter what. So we always have that spark of goodness there right at the very center. But then we have also contracted with so many people that we meet daily in our lives. You know, before, you know, my belief system is most definitely, before we get here, we choose to come back. We recognize that there are certain karmic debts that need to be repaid. We want to sort of clear the decks, and we write our own story. And in doing that, we choose our parents. We have the connections with our future husband, our children, and the wider array of people. And so therefore, we write the whole script, the beginning, the middle, and the end. The people coming in are also not just coming in on our script. They have their own story that they write. So everyone's the great writer. We're coming back to connect with these people, to either love or not to love, but there is a reason for every connection that's made.
It's that great tapestry that just keeps being woven and woven into all these dimensions.
Right. So when people come into spirit, when come from spirit into the onto the earth plane, and we're coming into this family, and so many of my clients on the counseling aspect of it will say, I chose them. How could I have chosen them? It was hell. Well, that may be, but then I always tell them, what a blockbuster you wrote. And there's a reason for you connecting with that hell, as you call it.
Right.
But at the same time, if you wrote this script and you gave them their scripts and you sort of contracted out together, then recognize that all infliction is self-infliction. If someone is inflicting upon you, within your family, say, for instance, then you've also scripted that in, and there was a lesson to be learned. So when they come and say, well, my mother did this, my father did that, and they hold on to it for 40 years, it's like, drop it. Recognize that if you haven't learned the lesson by now, you really have to look at it again. Because they didn't inflict anything upon you other than what you needed to learn a lesson, perhaps from previous existence. So when we think of it like that, how many people do you know that will tell you, I am so scarred by my past. I'm so scarred by the inflictions.
And the relationship that they're in now.
Yes.
And I do say it in a gentle manner when clients come to me. It's, we each create our life. Oh, I didn't create this. Well,
so you let someone else do it for you. Is that what you did?
So, I mean, this is it. This is the life you are living. If you do not want to live the life that you have just laid out before me that you're living, I can't change it for you. I can help you with insights from standing outside your situation. But obviously you chose to come to me, so this is what I'm going to share with you. There was a woman that came in the other day, and she brought a child with her who is in the spectrum, who I just get so much joy from this child. She said, I just wanted to come in and see you do the breathing with my mother, and I took my pendulum out.
Oh,
so
interesting,
we had
of course.
We did. We had so much fun with the pendulum because I said to her, I always ask permission with my pendulum.
Yes,
will you work
of
with me
course.
today with so-and-so? I said, for me, a circle is no, straight lines are yeses. So I used her name, and I said, will you allow me and so-and-so to ask you questions today? And it's like the what we use on the Ouija board. It's like that pointer. It feels like it's warming up. And they're watching. I said, just watch my hand. I'm not doing anything. And it starts warming up. And it's like, yes, yes, yes. So she was asking cute preteen questions,
Yes.
you know, that were really adorable. And then her mom is limited in the questions that she could ask because certain things are very
Daughters there,
personal.
yes.
So I said, well, give me a simple one. Let's ask a simple one. So she said, well, the fence came down in the windstorm that we had a few days ago. Is it going to be fixed? I said, well, let's give it a time because you have to be pretty specific. So I asked, will that fence be fixed
Oh, gee.
by Memorial Day? And it was the biggest circle you could have seen.
Oh, dear.
So I said, well, it will not be fixed by that person. However, you can hire someone to fix it or ask your brothers or your dad to fix it. But the energy that's coming in right now is you want your significant other to fix it. He could care less. Or I should say he could not care less
Right.
about, you know, fixing this fence. So why? So if that's just one of the minor things. So in our lives, I know that when I was married to that last person, it was very uncomfortable. It was very frightening at times. Would I want to do it again? No.
No.
However, what I learned and who I started to mature and blossom into because of those
Absolutely.
nightmares
Absolutely.
made me who I am today and who I continue to be as I continue unfolding. My children, from the marriage before, the 3 children from before, can't understand how I'm not walking around hating him and this and that and the other thing.
When you hate someone, you hate yourself at that point
Right,
because
that-
you were self-inflicting.
There's that old that saying, hating someone, holding resentments, holding these truly hateful feelings is like you taking poison and wanting someone else to die.
Really, really.
I hope that this individual is very happy and stays far away from me. Because if he's very happy where he is, he won't think twice about me or once or ever.
You don't want.
And that's lovely.
Once it's finished, you know.
Yes.
And I mean that in the sense that I have a first marriage myself
Right.
too, and I really can have a great conversation with my ex-husband.
Right.
We have a wonderful son together. We have great grandchildren together. You know, not
Right.
great grandchildren, but
Yes.
beautiful grandchildren, and I honor that. I really do. And when I was younger, I felt very hurt about certain things.
Right.
But at this point in time, no, I actually can laugh about things now. And you know, in fact, my son was just over in Scotland. He just went back yesterday to Nairobi. And he has a wonderful time with his father. And there's no... If I had bitterness, he would have bitterness, you know?
There's no reason
there
to
is no
feed
bitter-
that.
And he's one of those people that is so laid back and loving, you know, a real good soul. And coming from a broken home, you really expect perhaps, you know, a lot of infliction there. Not at all, not at all.
Right.
So I think it's how you present it.
Right.
And if you recognize that you both sort of coordinated your stories,
definitely did.
then
And-
you've got to leave with a happy heart,
Yeah.
you
And
know, at
where
some point.
we learn things through whether they're marriages or business relationships, whatever it is. The father of my 3 children, we're divorced over 40 years. I get along so well, you know, with his present wife. She's a darling. And we go to family functions, we sit with each other and things like that. And he starts to twitch. So he's sadly, after 40 plus years, he's still holding on to things. And I'm just...
Let it go.
I'm
Let
just
it go.
so happy, and we're on the
Yes.
same planes, going places together. And it's like, oh, you're still carrying that. How sad for you.
Right.
How sad for you. It's just...
It is sad, but again, at the same time, that's his
That's
journey.
part of his- that's part of his journey.
You can try and help people.
Right.
If they don't get that you're trying to help them, then walk away,
Nothing
because
you
I mean,
can
there's
do.
no further attachment there. You know,
No,
there's no need for it.
It's
There really
just,
isn't.
it's so fascinating.
Yeah.
And having the blessing of doing this show, it's what a gift that you and I and others that have these type of shows can have these conversations and put it out there, because even if it helps one person listening to whatever it is that they're going through to make some kind of a connection. When we were talking yesterday, I told you that a new client contacted me.
Yes.
He sounds like a lovely person. He shall remain nameless also. And he told me what he did for a living and the people that he was involved with. And one of them is a very well-known person, and that's fine. We're well-known people also.
I don't know about that. But
well, not as well-known as this one individual. So that was, and he mentioned the name that I used before my naming ceremony, before 1999. So this is someone that knew me from way back in the day. And I even had to think, who is the person that knows the famous person that did the introduction? Finally, the light went on. So I texted him back and I said, I'll call you early Easter Sunday morning, whatever. And it's great. I look forward to chatting with you. And then you and I had our wonderful talk yesterday.
Yes, we did.
And you told me you were going to watch a certain show. You were going to, what do they call it, binge watching. You know, you were going to watch.
I'd never seen this whole series, so I thought at this point in time, not that I never binge watch, I can't.
Right.
But I can watch a series, one at a time. Sort of thing, yes.
So you were going to watch this particular show, and I started laughing. And I said, I have to read you this message. So the message was, his connection to me is the woman who's the star
on that
that show. So when I read it to her, she's like, I guess you better go call him now.
Yes,
you know,
you better do.
I better.
Yes, I did.
So, and he just sounds lovely. And it's about his little dog. And his little dog kind of gave us the okay to do this reading, you know, this interspecies. But it's all interspecies. It's like...
Yes, who are we anyway?
Yes, who are we? And that's what you said before we sat down is, you know, who are we? You know,
look at
what attributes, whether you look at them negatively or in a positive thing, what from your parents in this lifetime? So we do pick up physical attributes.
Yes.
I have the physical build of my father's side of the family, the Austrians. I inherited my father's very poor eyesight. And as we chatted earlier, I also inherited maybe more through the physical contact of his complete discomfort and phobic behavior toward going to doctors. Because I was always wonderful working for them, doing Reiki, taking the patients through breathing. But for me to be the patient,
but that was a different story.
That doesn't work very well. So this is another part of this tapestry unfolding of, I chose this man to be my father, chose my mother to be my mother, my sisters to be my sisters.
That's right.
So sitting at this gigantic conference table, we all sat down and wrote our scripts, passed it along. It's, you know, you pass it along, you sign off on it. You know, this is what we hope to accomplish when we all, you know, get back down.
We shall accomplish.
Yes.
That's the whole thing.
Yes.
What we look upon down here sometime as a negative or as a failure, no, there is no failure. There's a reason for balancing the scales.
Yeah.
So if something was very, very much out there on the positive and with very little negative, you know how the universe is in balance. Nothing happens in the universe but by design.
Right.
And it's the same with our lives. So there are certain things that in this lifetime we may look at it as being rather negative, but in previous lifetimes this had to show up here at this point to basically calm the waters, balance the scales. So there's nothing that happens, in my life, and that's the way I look at it, there's nothing that happens that's either you would consider good or bad, that I know that there's a reason for everything. And that makes life so much easier.
And nothing is really out of the blue.
No.
Nothing's really out of the blue. This individual, this other professional, they didn't come out of the blue. They came in to this community for a reason.
Absolutely.
To teach, whether it was boundaries or authenticity, or am I behaving in any way, shape, or form like this person? Awakening something in each person that has met this individual, and that's not bad. That's very good.
No, it's not at all. Not at all.
Very good.
I have, I talk about angels on earth, and I have one my office is in Port Jeff, as you know, and I passed by this adult home on my way down to Port Jeff, and there's this fellow would sit outside and he'd wave to everybody. And eventually, of course, I'm going to wave back,
You bet.
know? And then one day I decided I'm going to stop. And he came around from his chair, and this adult home, it's not the best.
Yeah.
You know, it really is. It looks like a tough, you know, situation to be in. And his name is George. Because I said, I want to be able to know when I'm calling out, good morning, good morning, George. And he calls me Mama. And I'm thinking, okay, George, you look about my age, get real now. But, but at the same time, he is one of the most spiritual people. He is highly intelligent. His past, he was in newspapers, editing, etc., etc. And his downfall was drink. So he's there, and he told me the whole story. And it was just like, this is where he is. And I told him, you know something, George, I think you're a light in this place. You light up the place. And he said, I think I do. It was just the way, I would not expect this man. He's very well turned out. I mean, he's always clean and presentable, and he sits out front. But you also have homeless people who go in there to have their meals. So it really is a tough, you know, situation. And he is happy. He is. When people, you hear people who moan and groan about, you know, their Mercedes-Benz and quite the color that they wanted, you know.
And we both know these people.
Oh, don't we just? And at the end of the day, this man, he hasn't given up anything. He hasn't given up a thing. He is where, he's blooming where he's planted. And he was the one who planted himself there. And so no circumstance is awful and to the person, to the soul. To the physical, of course, we're going to see things that we say, oh my God, that is awful. But the soul within that form knows. Even the people in Manhattan, you know, when you go into Manhattan, you have people sitting there with their signs. You don't get so much now, but it used to be many. And I remember my son, he would stop and give constantly to people. And I'd say, you know, Scott, at some point, you can't do it to everyone. He says, Mom, how can you not? You know? And that's just his heart. But he was recognizing something that I thought about that. I thought, you know, they are your biggest teachers because they are actually you're showing compassion to them. You're actually building compassion when you stop and interact with a person who has that cup in their hand.
And who's different than you.
Absolutely.
It's so similar to someone who would have people would tie them a beggar, you know, something to be demeaning in a way. And they're treated very similarly to people that are in wheelchairs. They're talked over around. When my dad was in the hospital just before he passed, they had done a trach on him. And he was trying to get the nurse's attention. And they were talking over him and around him. And having been in the medical field, I would see people come in wheelchairs. And staff and even the doctors, and the person in the wheelchair is the patient.
Sure.
Very capable of speaking, of stating what their needs are, and just talking over to the caretaker. And it's like, you're
very frustrating for them,
how ignorant of you, how demeaning that you feel this person is less than because you assume they are homeless or that they don't dress like you or they don't drive a car like you or that they're in a wheelchair or that they're missing a limb or this or that or the other thing. To put yourself to stand above another living being is a heck of a lesson to have to learn.
But they learn it. They learn it.
If not in this lifetime, they do end up learning it.
I think there's definitely, even the interaction, with daily interactions, there's something
And I think
left.
there's a fear also. I had gone with my mother once, many years ago. She was in, I guess it was an assisted living, but it was for people that were very active. She could sign out and get on the bus and go into Manhattan. She was president of the Women's Grand Jurors Association, so
she was out and about.
She was a little firecracker. And she said to me that they have a trip to go to Atlantic City, and she wanted me to go with her. Atlantic City is not my
Not my
thing.
place
I'm not a
either,
gambler.
no, nor me.
And she said, oh, you have to come, because she was organizing the bus and she wanted to show off her baby daughter for whatever reason. So I said, all right, how much longer am I going to have my mom? Let me go with her. So I was on the bus with her, and it really was a wonderful experience being on the bus with 60 people 20 to 30 or more years older than me. This wasn't that long ago.
Right.
Some could walk on their own, some had walkers, some had two canes, some whatever. And of course, she told me what I had to do. I had to do it her way. You get the coupon, you get the food, and you sit at this slot machine. And it was like, rather than argue with her, just let her lead you around. It's making her so happy. You're not going to be happy no matter what you did here.
Yes.
So I said to her, I want to go for a walk on the boardwalk. Oh, that's dangerous. Excuse me? She's the people out there, the beggars, the street people, the this, the that, the other thing.
Okay.
And it was like, really? I said, well, I'm going to go for a walk. I'm all grown up now, It was like when I was married to this last husband and I had to go into the city to do something with my attorney. He said, oh, you can't go into the city by yourself. I said, I lived in the city. Right. Oh, people get mugged there, and it was like, oh dear God, just stop.
I love the city.
So,
I really
I do.
Yeah,
I thrive in it. I don't even mind driving in it. It's fine with me. So my mother took this walk with me on the boardwalk of Atlantic City, and there are street musicians, and I love that. So I would stop, when someone was playing a violin and somebody else had looked like old coffee cans, and he did them as drums, and of course I'm going to put money in. I mean, this is how you're making your living.
That's right.
And she would grab a hold of me and tug me away and think, don't you do that.
Oh, no.
And it was really? I said, why are you so frightened of them? These people are performing for you. And when you go to Europe, you have the mimes, especially in France is where I saw them. The mimes are there, and when I went to Sacré-Cœur,
Sacred Heart.
Yes, it is so beautiful. There was this, I thought, statue at first, standing on this thing right
with
before the steps.
Yes.
And a red rose in their hand. And my friend Max and I, he didn't tell me there was a little lift to come up, so we walked all these steps, a lot of steps to Sacré-Cœur. And we're there, and there's this woman just looking up, and the statue looked beautiful. And then the statue leaned forward
with the rose
and handed her the rose. And it was so sweet. So I said to Max, I want to do that. I want to meet this mime.
Right.
And he said, you have to give them money. I said, of course you have to give them money.
How do they exist otherwise?
That makeup, that costuming, this is their art form.
What is it about money? What is it about money that people have?
Get
this
that.
Thing,
So it's just something to trade. If I didn't have money and I had 3 bananas, here, you take that.
That's it.
So I said, I don't know if you speak English, and I know you can't talk, but I think what you're doing is wonderful. And there was this little smile to not crack the white makeup.
Much.
And the rose came down, and we have wonderful...
Did you have the black beret too?
No, he didn't. But as you walked on some of the streets, there were people that were the Statue of Liberty, Marie Antoinette. I mean, just the most amazing, and so much work goes into that.
Oh, sure.
And
they're providing a service, aren't they?
They are, and for people to look down upon this...
We see this all the time. You know that. You know that. I mean, this is what we're trying to fight against, aren't we?
Yeah.
It's people who really believe.
We are all these wonderful globes of energy. And the gentleman I spoke to yesterday was asking me a little bit about my background and my belief system. And I said, well, I'll use my friend Joe's example a little bit. When you come into this life, it's like renting a car. I said, but I'll take it a step further. So how do you want to travel through this life? Do you want to be in a Rolls-Royce Silver Shadow? To learn your lessons and to teach whatever it is you need to do? Do you want to be in a 57 Chevy hot rod with dual exhaust, Do you want to be in a purple PT Cruiser, 5-speed on the floor? And or do you want to be on a bicycle? Do you want to be in an old Citroën. You know, what is the vehicle you're choosing to travel through this physical lifetime? Because this is all just like a rent-a-car. You know,
It's a vehicle.
That's
It's a
really all it
vehicle.
is, because
Yes.
within me, I just see us as these beautiful balls of energy, and our colors change. They're blue, they're gold, they're orange, they're red, they're purple. They're just lovely. But to have the human experience, we have to rent one of these things.
Yes.
You know,
Yes.
and that's to me, it's as simple as that.
Well, it is. That's exactly what it is. You have to have a vehicle to get around.
Yeah.
And this is our earth vehicle.
Right.
But there's certainly no attachment to it at the end. That's why, you know, when people have, for instance, you know, people go to cemeteries. You know, with my husband being Italian, it seems to be Christmas, Easter, whatever it is.
Yes.
Anytime
Mother's
we went
Day,
down,
Father's Day.
Anytime we went down in beside where his family lives now, and where he grew up, we would always stop by the cemetery, and we'd go and pay our respect. This was not something we did in our family because, first of all, my parents were both cremated, which I will be doing the same.
Right here with you.
And that's it. There's no need for taking up space with me.
I don't
And
need
there's
real
no need
estate
for
when I'm not here.
There's nothing needed for people to come and visit either because I'm not there,
No.
you know. But that's how people tend to, you know, feel about life. It's, you know, there's beginning and middle and end. And they put their emphasis on something, like the physical vehicle.
Yeah.
We choose the vehicle, depending on exactly what we're going to be doing. We do choose it. And sometimes say, really? Did we? You know?
Yeah,
There are
wait a
times when,
minute,
oh,
yeah.
hold on. But at the end of the day, it does as well. And when it's time to go, we leave it. And I know, I'm sure you felt the same way when you see people in hospital who are at the point of passing. And I've had calls from clients who would want me to come and do what I could. And they want this person to get up and walk now, you know? And as soon as you put your hand over the solar plexus, you know when it's it's vacated. The physical is still going through the process, but the silver cord, you know, the attachment is there, and the soul is free.
It's out.
It's free, as we do every night, and we discuss that.
Yeah.
And if I were to say to that soul, you know, your family is grieving, they really want you to get, you know, to come back and do, it's like, please tell them, don't force this upon me. Please don't. That's why I would always say, do not resuscitate. If it's my time to go, I don't want to be given tubes or anything like that. And if anything, I would even give my body to science.
Do you want to check this out? You know,
That's
check it
whatever
out.
it is, you know?
Don't do a tune-up because it's done.
Yes.
I was blessed to midwife a very dear lady, Maddie, to help her cross over at the very beginning of March. And her gratitude just really fills me with emotional tears, good ones, and here they come. I was there the day before she completely left her physical body, and I'm very close friends with her two daughters, the young ladies we went to Africa with.
Yes.
And Mom was in a hospital bed, and she was so not in the physical body. She didn't understand yet. Like, she'd step out, she'd come back in, step out and come back in. So I did what I do, you know, and we told her there's a beautiful party waiting for her.
Oh, there
I
is.
opened up all the chakras and telling her girls and her sons, everyone's going to be fine. You can watch them. You
And
could
she
even
knew that.
Yes, and you could even
knew
push
that.
them around when you're out on the other side. And this was done very early on a Wednesday morning, and I left, and now I'm driving to the South Fork. And she had given me some visuals, some messages to give to them, which of course made no sense to me, but it made sense to them, and that's what it's about.
That's it.
And as I'm driving, more messages came through. And so I'm talking into my phone, leaving text messages. I said, I have no idea if this is making sense. And later on, we spoke, and everything her mom said made sense to
Yes,
them.
it does.
The dogwood tree, the this, the that, the other thing. And how grateful we are when we're in spirit, when somebody helps our loved ones that is still here. So
Absolutely.
Mama showed her
Yes.
gratitude because I love this family. So the day after the funeral, family members were going to go back to Virginia and Colorado, and I'm not going to see them till this summer. And I miss them. They are extended family for me. So my purple car at the time, I was on my way up island, the check engine light went on when I was on the expressway. So I called where I was going. I said, I am not going to make it. Turned around, and I could have gone to a friend in West Hampton at their dealership that's very close to where I was. But something said, no, you're going to go to Southold. So I called the fellas at Southold, and I said, Peaches' light went on, and they know her by her name, which was very cute. So he said, don't worry, get here. It was very early in the morning. I got there just 9 o'clock, and what it turned out to be was a spark plug misfired, so the computer reset itself. But it was the mother that somehow did this little thing to get me where she wanted me to be. So that was on a Wednesday. So that Friday was my son's birthday. And I thought I'd go into this lovely little gift shop in West Hampton, get him a gift and a card there, go across to Beach Bakery, which is wonderful, and then right across the street to the post office and ship it off priority. It'll be there Friday. That didn't happen. I'm leaving the dealership. They charged me nothing. And I'm coming up the main road, and I'm coming to Love Lane in Mattituck, which I love. And it's like, the chocolate shop. I'll go in and get him some homemade chocolates. There is no parking on either side of the street. It's like, it's just 9 o'clock in the morning. What's going on? So I go up and I make a U-turn by the little train station, and I play this game with myself. If there's a parking spot in a certain place, it means I'm meant to be there, which I know it is. So I said, okay, I'm going to make a U-turn. I'm going to come back down Love Lane. If there is an open parking spot in front of the chocolate shop,
it's mine.
It's mine. I'm meant to go in. And as I come down the street, someone pulls out from right in front of the chocolate shop.
Inevitable,
It gets even better. So as I pull in, and I'm parking, my cell phone rings, and it's my dear friend whose mother just passed. And she said, what are you doing in Mattituck? It's like,
you're looking
where
at
are
like,
you?
Who are these people?
I said, how did you know I'm in Mattituck? And she said, we're sitting in Love Lane Kitchen having breakfast.
And she can see you.
Did you have breakfast yet? I said, no. She's come join us. So I get in, and I'm surprised, but I'm not surprised. And there are all these beautiful family members that I'm not going to see till the summer. But here we are.
Met them all at the end.
Everyone is at breakfast. And where the three of us, the two girls and I, are talking, Mom did this as a thank you for being there for her ritual and for doing a ritual with the girls afterwards. And this was a thank you, you know, have breakfast with this extended family.
She wanted you to be there.
Definitely.
As family.
And I mean, and she's done other things which I won't go into, but she's just she's just crossed over. You know, it's a month basically, and she's so active already.
That's the thing.
She's got a job to do.
She
has
timing
family members. She has shown her daughters and me, and I thank her so much for it, because I wasn't that close to her physically, but obviously there's this huge connection. Between her and I.
For you to be there at her passing, her transition, then
gosh.
obviously it was written in. It was meant to be that way.
So she fully passed the next morning, and I was laughing and I yelled at her. I said, sure, you passed when so-and-so came because they brought you coffee. I didn't bring you coffee. She was a big coffee drinker. So we all laughed about that, and she came through to our dear friend, because her mom was an artist, and she said, did you get Mom's painting yet? I said, no. She said, oh, she wants you. There's a painting for you.
That's amazing. I've had clients come to me for mediumship work, and I'm making the connection. And the first time it happens, a black lady, she came and she said, I don't live here. I live in the Carolinas, but I'm up here for a particular occasion. And I said, okay. And this lady started coming through, and she was actually at that point laying in her coffin in the funeral home.
Oh my, okay.
And I thought at the time, well, that's, she had just passed and she was there, and obviously her physical was there. But this lady was shocked that she would, come through, because she said, but she hasn't even, well, I thought, well, she is gone.
Yes.
Just because she hasn't been buried.
The car went back to the rental place, that's it.
She didn't look back, really, that's what happens. But that's how they actually, and I've had communication just recently from a friend who's my dentist, and her father is in a nursing home with Alzheimer's, and he came to visit. And I thought,
gosh,
oh
I
gosh,
love
and I know
this.
he's not passed, but he wanted me to let her know certain things, you know? And I thought,
Right.
oh my gosh. She said, yes, he's out of it. He's gone. And I thought, yes, he is. To myself, yes, he is gone. He's just waiting for the physical to take its final breath. But in the meantime, he's not stuck in that physical. He is in spirit, connecting with people.
Right.
And they're saying, any day now, any day, you know, whenever you're ready, we're here for you. And really is an interesting thing where we do the out-of-body experience daily.
And we do it.
Yes,
even
every
if
day.
you haven't been taught years ago, when I was involved with Eckankar, I would take satsang classes with these two amazing people. They were young also. When she passed due to physical illness, he passed 2 weeks later.
Yeah, isn't that something?
He was not
Yeah.
ill. I mean, what a connection. They were just
Yes,
truly
they were
amazing.
truly amazing together,
And
obviously.
it was about the classes were about soul travel. And he said, some people feel very stuck. He said, but you're all doing it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And my
All the
son
time.
Jonathan had
Every
done
night.
it. When I had gone away to a seminar and I came home, my son Jonathan, when he was about 10, I guess, was very annoyed at me. He said, why didn't you turn around? And I said, what do you mean? And he said, I was walking behind you on the beach, and you were walking with this man, and you wouldn't turn around. And I had brought back books for him, and the head of Eckankar was Sri Harold Klim. And there was a drawing of him, a very gentle man. And I gave Jonathan one of these books during this conversation. And I said, well, sweetie, if you want to come join me in my dreams, ask me before we go to sleep at night.
Right,
Because otherwise it's very private territory. So he's going through a book. He said, Mommy, that's the man you were walking with. And he had never seen him before. So here, at his young age, he was just
making the recognition,
popping
sure.
out. And he saw this man in the dream state.
I'll go
That's
further
so
than that.
beautiful.
I had a client, and Charlie, loved him to death, such a nice man. I used to work with his wife, and Charlie, she told me that Charlie had cancer, and she said, can you do anything for him? I said, well, by all means, have him come to see me. And Charlie would come once a week, and I'd put him on the table and whatever else. And I had a cat, Samantha, at that time. I know this sounds crazy, and my husband can vouch for it. He's straightforward, you know. She would call me Mama. Swear to
I
God,
do
you've
believe
heard
it.
of No, seriously.
I do.
She'd come in the morning and she'd say, Mama. And I'd think, okay, I'm not getting up yet. And it would go louder. And we used to laugh because it's like she practically shouts it. So now, at that point, I had a client come to my house. And we were down in the dining room, and when it was finished, and Samantha came down the hallway, and I said, she said, oh, what a beautiful cat. And I said, yes, that's Samantha. She calls me Mama. And she
they looked at you.
And she looked, and I thought at the time, why the heck did you tell that lady that? She'll be thinking you're crazy. And I turned around and I said, Sam, what's my name? I swear, I swear. And she said, Mama. Now, of course, when the people at the office, and I would tell them stuff like that, they'd say, oh, stop now. That was the fine. So now Charlie...
It's communication.
Well, Charlie was, you know, the one who was in the... And I knew at a certain point, I would even given the date of when he was passing. And he couldn't come to the office anymore. So I said to Maureen, it was a week before the date, it was the 13th. And I said, you know, I'm going to come over and see Charlie just to see how he is. And she said, do we have a story from you? I said, well, tell me when I get there. So she said they were in the middle of the night. Charlie woke up and whatever, and she decided she went to the bathroom or something. She came back into bed. And he said, Isabella was here. Because I would tell him, you know, I send energy out at night. Isabella was here. And she said, you too, did you hear the cat? And he said, yes, I wasn't going to say those words because you think I'm going crazy. So now usually I would lay in bed at night. Samantha would, you know, curl up beside me whichever way. So let's face the energy field. And I know this sounds way over the top, and I'm a pretty straightforward person. No, really, but even to me it was a bit. But I recognize when our energy goes, and the energy that's sort of surrounding and enveloped in it, so they actually heard Samantha say,
and Mama.
And it was like, okay, don't tell anyone else. And of course, we're telling everyone on TV
Right,
now.
everyone that's
And
going to watch
I'm not really
it.
but really,
The animals are just so
absolutely.
amazing.
Absolutely.
When I met Lox, I wasn't planning on getting any more kitties. And there he was in Petco saying loud and clear, I need to go home with you. I'm terribly frightened. So long story short, you know, he has this pododermatitis. Dr. Wen was wonderful, took care of him. He's home with me. But before he came home, he had to stay at this other vet for a week while his feet began to heal. And I'm driving home from the South Fork to the North Fork, and I hear, don't you recognize me? And I'm like, recognize you? It's me, it's Lox. And when I was married, I had 2 cats, Lox and Bagels.
I wonder why now.
The black one was Bagels. She had one eye that's very sick, but I know that's what we named her. And he was her orange buddy, same litter, and we called him Lox. So when I was going through my divorce, my ex-husband took him, did something with him.
Oh, dear.
And I don't know what, and I'm not capable.
No.
I can't handle.
No.
I do not ever want to know what he did. But it had troubled me for so many, many years. And don't you recognize me? It's Lox. And I was like, oh, my God. And now I'm crying all the way home. I call my son David, and I tell him this whole thing. And he said, Ma, that's so wonderful, and you have him back. And now he could have the rest of his life safe and secure.
Right.
And when Lox was Lox, he had this very strange habit. And Jonathan was very young, and Jonathan used to call your nostrils your nozzles. And what Lox used to do was try to take his little pink nose and stick it in your nostril. So the kids called him the nozzle nuzzler. Very silly, but that's very bizarre, and it's very unique.
It was.
I've had cats since I'm a small child. They have never done this. So I go to pick up Oliver and bring him home, and he loved putting his paws around your neck, which Lox loved also. And then he tries to stick his nose in my nostrils.
Thought, oh, you are. Hit you.
And he did it for about 3 months to make sure I got it. And I said, I've got it. I'm so glad you're back. I'm so glad you're here, and I could take care of you fully, and no one is ever going to hurt you again.
And it's reincarnation.
And
Let's get real.
And
Let's
it
get
is.
real.
And he chose to come back, to go through whatever he went through in the first 6, 7 years of his life, to get to Petco on the same day that I was going to be there.
Everything is there for a reason.
The divine intervention at things. But we already only have 4 minutes left, and I haven't given you the opportunity yet to say how people could get in touch with you.
Well, my name is Isabella Randazzo.
Stop.
Yes, it is. It is. It's been for I think I've been married 39 years this year to my second husband. Isn't that something?
Yes, it is.
So, and you can reach me at 631. My office number is 631-732-6749.
So that's a landline. Do not text it.
Do not text, and I can give you the other.
Okay.
Should I?
That's up to you. Your
No, I'll just give you my landline.
The landline
That way
is
then,
good, so leave a message. Do not text that number.
No, do not text that number. And how many landlines do people have? But I prefer to have that.
I do have that. I have it as a backup. I like it.
I do too, because I get a lot of text and stuff, and then trying to take it as a phone message and call them back, and I have my book and all the rest of it. It's much easier just to have that landline. Come in, press the button, and take the notes.
Yes.
So that's the best way to get in touch with me. I have an office in Port Jeff, and I love what I do. I love what I do.
So can I put you on the spot for the last minute or two?
Oh, of course. Oh, dear. Oh, dear.
What words would you say to people watching for themselves, or to share with someone about connections, about authentic self? Like, what's flowing through you now that you would like to share? Because you do have gems. You are very wise, beautiful
But when you put
woman.
it like that, I wouldn't know where to start. But at the end of the day, no, really, I think what we have to understand is that we come from this magnificent source. And I said to somebody, we are God. That spark of life, that first part of DNA, if you want to call it that, came from the Creator. We talk about our Creator, so what did He create? He, she. They created the life force. So therefore, we come from that DNA, that spark. We all have it. There is nothing, no one that doesn't have that spark, including the animals.
Including everything.
Everything.
The rocks, the stones.
Sure. Everything is
just
life force.
Everything, yeah.
So when you recognize at the end of it all that you are this magnificent being, you may be in the worst circumstances in life, but always remember going within. Get out of your head. If I would say anything, we think too much. Get out of your head. That's where the ego resides. You go down to your heart. Meditation on a daily basis really gets you that peace. Things can be going on around me, and I had terrible things happening in the last few years with family members passing, and it was hard being there on the other side of the world, that type of thing. And the one comfort I had was that even as they passed, their spirit came. My sister particularly, I knew before I knew, because she came to me in the night, and I remember looking at the clock and I said, my sister's come to see and say goodbye. And my niece said that she would text me or email me when it happened. And she did, and I said, I know the exact time. And it's just, that's how important it is that we realize that we never die. There is no such thing as death. So let's live this life every day that we have, recognizing that when it's time for you to go, it's like going to sleep. There is no pain in the soul. The soul does not feel the pain of passing. So when you're looking at someone passing and you're saying, why did God allow this to happen, that this person, that's the physical. The soul is already out, still connected, but getting on with life, getting on with business, you know? So
getting on with this beautiful existence.
We have to recognize who we are. And that's important. We are not just this, we are not this physical form ever.
No.
We are the soul within it.
Because we've been something else before, and if we are to come back, we'll be something else when we come back.
Yes, and of our choosing.
Of our choosing.
That's another good one, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
Of our choosing.
Thank you so much for being out here today.
My pleasure. I'm looking forward to lunch now, right?
Me too. And I'd like to thank everyone for supporting the show. I'm very, very blessed, and I'm very, very grateful to get the feedback that we get, and to have LTV and cable put us together, that we're out on the North Fork, the South Fork, up Island, down Island. And it's just an amazing journey. So I thank you all. Close your eyes. Take a nice deep breath. Breathe in peace, life, and love. Fill yourself. And when you exhale, allow it to surround you and everyone and everything else. Namaste.
Namaste.